Welcome back. Now 7:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. We turn now to Europe. Ukraine over the weekend launched one of its largest drone attacks against Russia since the start of the war. It comes as the country has stepped up its strikes on Russia this year, dramatically increasing its long-range capabilities with the rapid deployment of largely homegrown technology. Part of that expansion is attributable to Firepoint, Ukraine's largest private defense company, and its chief executive and technical officer, a former furniture designer, now behind so many of the drones battering Russia. Joining us now with more on this story, reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Matthew Luxmore. Matthew, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Congratulations on this incredible piece. An unlikely force here, in this war. Tell us more about the story of this drone maker.
Well, Irina Terech is just 34 years old, and she's in many ways kind of a one-of-a-kind entrepreneur in Ukraine. I mean, at the age of 19, she was already running a company, dropped out of university early to pursue her business ambitions. But the ambitions were focused on making furniture, specifically outdoor furniture and outdoor spaces. She's a trained architect and civil engineer, and her dream was to make Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, a more beautiful city. She was an avowed pacifist who believed that architecture and public spaces can reduce the distance between people, make them happier. And of course, the war pushed her in a very different trajectory.
So talk to us about that, her origin story, if you will. When the war began, how does she then move into this unlikely new career? And tell us a little bit more about these drones and just how effective they've been, particularly in recent months, as Ukraine has been able to demonstrate to the Kremlin, hey, we can more or less hit you anywhere. No place is safe.
Well, it seemed that what kind of radicalized, for lack of a better word, Irina Terech, or made her kind of pledge her energies towards Ukraine's defense campaign was an incident at the beginning of the war when she traveled north outside of Kiev to the town of Bucha to retrieve her mother, who was living there. They were planning to leave the country at the time and shelter abroad. And while they were in Bucha, the Russians took over the town. And then Irina, with her mother, spent days essentially sheltering in a bomb shelter in that town as the Russians were going door to door, arresting people, and later carried out a massive, massacre of civilians in the town. And after that experience, Terech posted online saying that I will do everything in my ability to essentially prevent this kind of thing from happening to my country again. And then she pivoted towards aiding Ukraine's defense effort through a series of initiatives that she launched through her company at the time, the one that made furniture and outdoor spaces. And then she was contacted by another entrepreneur, someone who is a kind of visionary weapons designer, Denis Shillerman, who is now her main partner at Firepoint. He founded that company. He brought her on as the chief of production because he had the vision to create these weapons, but he needed someone like her who could scale production and figure out how to reach out to partners abroad. But Irina wanted more, and so she started to be involved more with the design, proposed a new design for these drones that actually rapidly accelerated the pace at which the company could make them. And those are the drones that are traveling, above 2,000 miles to hit targets all across Russia and are really, really helping Ukraine to achieve an edge in this war after so many years in which Russia was the much, much stronger power. These are strikes against Russian warehouses, logistics hubs that are really hurting Russia's economy and preventing Moscow from being able to ratchet up its invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, and these advancements in drone technology, the envy of the world, and we're seeing so many nations, including the United States, turn to Ukraine and saying, we need to adapt some of these new technologies. It's a fascinating piece, worth reading. Reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Matthew Luxmore. Matthew, thank you so much.